the real location of Eden may have been found. What if the Garden of Eden wasn't just a myth? What if it wasn't just a story about a perfect world, but a real physical place here on Earth? For centuries, that idea has captivated explorers, historians, and theologians. It's the ultimate paradise lost, described in the book of Genesis as the source of all life, a place watered by a great river that split into four. Now, that ancient description isn't just a poetic detail, it's a map. It's a set of geographical clues that people have been trying to solve for thousands of years. But what if I told you that by combining those ancient texts with 21st century technology, from satellite imagery to geological surveys, we are closer than we've ever been to zeroing in on its location? The evidence is startling, and it suggests paradise may not be as lost as we've always thought. Today, we're going to follow that map. We'll trace the ghost rivers of a forgotten world and explore the leading theories on where humanity's first home might actually be. The answer could rewrite the opening chapter of the human story. The story begins with a blueprint. Genesis chapter 2 describes a garden with a river flowing out of it. From there, it separates and becomes four rivers: the Pishon, the Gihon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. Two of those names jump right out. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers are still carving their way through modern-day Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. This is the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization itself. But what about the other two? The Pishon and the Gihon. They're the missing pieces of the puzzle. The Bible gives us clues. The Pishon is said to flow through a land of gold called Havilah, and the Gihon through the land of Cush. The problem is, on a modern map, these rivers and lands, at least by those names, are gone. Finding them is the key. For centuries, this is where the trail went cold. But now, technology is letting us see the world in a new way. To peel back the layers of sand and sea and uncover the scars of ancient waterways. We're no longer just reading an old map. We're using satellites to see the ghost rivers it describes. Section 1, the prime suspect, Mesopotamia. Logically, the first place to look is right where the two known rivers are. For a long time, the Tigris-Euphrates River Valley in southern Iraq has been the top candidate for Eden. This is the Fertile Crescent, a region that gave birth to the world's first cities, writing, and laws. It's where stories like the Tower of Babel are set. It just feels right. Many scholars argued that Eden was located right here, in the lush marshlands where the Tigris and Euphrates meet, before flowing into the Persian Gulf. The thinking was that the Pishon and Gihon were maybe tributaries that have since dried up, or were just different names for other known rivers in the area, like Iran's Karun River. The idea was that the garden was a real, flourishing oasis, a memory preserved by the ancient Sumerian and Babylonian cultures who lived there, a story eventually passed down and written in Genesis. For a while, this was the most widely accepted view. It's neat, tidy, and it places Eden at the heart of where civilization as we know it began. But there's a massive geographical problem. Genesis says a single river flowed out of Eden and then split into four. In southern Iraq, the rivers do the exact opposite. The Tigris and Euphrates join together to form one river, the Shat al-Arab, before emptying into the Gulf. They flow into a single point, not out from one. On top of that, the sources or headwaters of the Tigris and Euphrates are hundreds of miles apart in the mountains of Turkey. They don't start from a common source. This one contradiction sent many researchers looking for another answer, concluding that while Eden might have been inspired by Mesopotamia's fertile lands, the literal location had to be somewhere else. And that's where the search takes a dramatic turn, from the land to under the sea. Section 2. The Sunken Paradise, the Persian Gulf. What if the landscape described in Genesis is one that no longer exists? One that was swallowed by the ocean? This is the core of one of the most compelling and dramatic theories about Eden, that it's lying submerged beneath the waters of the Persian Gulf. This hypothesis, put forward by archaeologist Juris Zarins, argues that we've been reading the map all wrong. We know geologically that during the last ice age, sea levels were drastically lower, by as much as 400 feet. The Persian Gulf as we know it today simply didn't exist. Instead, it was a huge, fertile river valley, a perfect oasis watered by the Tigris, the Euphrates, and you guessed it, two other major rivers flowing from the Arabian Peninsula and Iran. This would have been an absolutely ideal spot for a paradise. It was warmer than the cold mountains to the north and incredibly well watered, creating a lush lowland plain. Using satellite imagery, researchers have actually traced the paths of fossil rivers, ancient dry riverbeds now buried by desert sand, that once flowed across Saudi Arabia and into this basin. One of these, a now dry river system called the Wadi al-Batin, could be the biblical Pishon, and the land it flowed from, modern-day Western Arabia, is home to an ancient gold mine known as Mahd ed-Dhahab, which translates to cradle of gold, an incredible potential link to the Bible's description of Havilah and its gold. According to this theory, when the Ice Age ended around 6000 BCE, the glaciers melted, sea levels rose, and this entire valley was flooded. The people living there would have been forced to flee to higher ground in Mesopotamia, carrying with them the memory of their drowned homeland, a lost paradise. This catastrophic flood could have even been the origin of the great flood myths, including the story of Noah, that are so common in the region. The theory is tantalizing. It solves the one river problem, as all four rivers would have met in this low-lying basin. But it also has a big challenge. Any direct archaeological evidence of Eden would be buried under hundreds of feet of water and sediment, making it almost impossible to prove. It's a fascinating possibility, but for now, that's what it remains. Section 3. The Northern Hypothesis, Iran and Armenia. While some looked beneath the waves, others turned their attention north, back to the headwaters. If the problem in southern Iraq is that the rivers don't flow from a single source, then why not look for a place where they do? The Tigris and Euphrates originate in the mountainous highlands of what is now eastern Turkey and northwestern Iran. This led to another major theory, championed by archaeologist David Rohl. He suggests Eden was located on a vast plain in northwestern Iran, near Tabriz, and the garden itself was a specific, walled valley within it. Rohl argues that our modern guesses for the Pishon and Gihon are wrong. He identifies the Gihon with the Aras River, which flows through the land he identifies as Kush, near a mountain called Kushe Dag. He links the Pishon to the Uizun River, which flows near ancient deposits of gold and precious stones, once again matching the biblical text. In Rohl's view, all four of these rivers have their sources in this general region, near Lake Urmia. He even points to local place names that seem to echo the biblical story. The landscape itself fits the description of a paradise, a beautiful, fertile alpine valley surrounded by towering mountains. This theory offers a neat geographical fit for the source of four rivers. However, like the others, it's not universally accepted. Critics argue that the links to place names are speculative and that it requires reinterpreting the traditional locations of places like Kush, which is more often associated with Ethiopia or Sudan. Still, it presents an intriguing alternative, a paradise nestled in the mountains, a world away from the deserts of Iraq. So we've journeyed from the marshes of Iraq to a sunken world in the Persian Gulf and up into the mountains of Iran. Each theory has compelling clues, but the mystery is far from solved. So I have to ask you, based on the evidence, which location sounds the most plausible to you? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you're finding this trip through ancient mysteries as fascinating as I do, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we have a lot more secrets from our ancient past to uncover together. Section 4. The Wild Card, Egypt and Beyond. Just when you think the map is exhausted, a new, more radical theory pops up that shifts the entire search hundreds of miles west. A researcher named Dr. Konstantin Borisov has proposed that the Garden of Eden was actually in Egypt. This theory dismisses the traditional identification of the Tigris and Euphrates altogether. Borisov argues that on ancient maps, the world was often shown as being encircled by a great Oceanus river. From this perspective, the four great rivers known to the ancient world weren't just in Mesopotamia, but also included the Nile. Echoing the 1st century historian Josephus, Borisov identifies the Gihon River with the Nile. But his theory goes even further, making a truly wild claim: that the Great Pyramid of Giza was built on the very spot where the Tree of Life once stood. He points to simulations of energy fields inside the pyramid's king's chamber, which he claims form a pattern that looks like a glowing tree. This is, by far, the most unconventional theory. It sets aside the most direct evidence, the names Tigris and Euphrates, for a radical reinterpretation of ancient maps and cosmology. While most scholars are highly skeptical, pointing to the complete lack of direct textual or archaeological proof, the theory has definitely captured the public's imagination. It just goes to show how deeply the search for Eden is ingrained in us. Other theories have placed Eden everywhere from Ethiopia to Missouri, but they often rely more on symbolic interpretation than the specific geographical clues in the text. Conclusion. So where does that leave us? We have a biblical blueprint, satellite data showing us lost rivers, and a handful of compelling but competing theories. We have the traditional spot in Mesopotamia, a sunken paradise under the Persian Gulf, a mountain garden in Iran, and even an electrifying proposal in Egypt. Each one has its champions and its critics, its evidence and its holes. As of today, nobody has found a sign that says, "Welcome to Eden." Population, 2 inches. There is no definitive, universally accepted location. The search continues, but maybe the real point of Eden isn't just about finding a spot on a map. The story of a lost paradise, a place of harmony between humanity and nature, just resonates with us. In many ways, the search for Eden is a search for our own origins. But the evidence for a real, physical place is getting harder and harder to ignore. The clues in Genesis weren't just poetry. They are a geographical puzzle. The fossil rivers seen from space prove the landscape of the ancient world was dramatically different from today, and that a place watered by 4 rivers might not be a fantasy after all. Whether it's now buried under sand, submerged beneath the sea, or hidden in a remote mountain valley, the data suggests that a place fitting Eden's description really could have existed. We may not have found it yet, but for the first time in history, we actually know where and how to look.